Donald Trump's authoritarian fantasy is no longer a conspiracy theory. It's happening in plain sight. From weaponizing state power to ignoring Congress, his movement is now openly testing how far it can push before democracy breaks. And this week, a chilling warning came straight from the Supreme Court itself. Even Trump's own appointees admit the system might not survive his next move. Before we dive into this shocking new development, let's look at how Trump's team has already turned public institutions into his personal playthings, starting with one of the most shameless examples of corruption and contempt ever broadcast on national television. I'm going to read this report from CNN that perfectly captures the rot inside Trump's administration.
Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, at an oversight hearing that sounded more like cross-examination coming from Pam Bondi doing op research on Democratic senators. What was your reflection of that?
Yeah, I mean, I watched some clips of that hearing. She acts like somebody who works for a guy who believes he's a king, right? Who believes that they're accountable to no one. She clearly showed zero deference for the United States Congress and Senate. That's probably understandable given her combative boss and how much she wants folks out there making news and creating viral clips. But it just is representative of the way the entire administration operates. They're not bound by the law. They're not bound by the Constitution. They don't believe they're accountable to the people. They certainly don't believe they're accountable to the Senate. And I think that's wearing thin on folks. 80% of Americans now say that we're in the middle of a political crisis. More than 50% of the country is worried about losing their right to free speech in the short term. So I don't think she does her boss any favors by acting so childish, representing the Department of Justice in front of the United States Senate. I don't know if you think differently.
That right there is the blueprint of Trumpism. Loyalty above law, chaos above accountability. His officials don't serve the Constitution, they serve the ego of one man who treats government like a personal empire. And that delusion of absolute power didn't stop at hearings. It spilled onto the streets. Now, listen to this report that shows just how far Trump was willing to go, even over the objections of elected state leaders.
This week in my home state of Illinois, President Trump deployed the Texas National Guard over the objection of our governor. To my Republican colleagues, how would you react if a Democratic president deployed the National Guard from any state into your state over the objections of your governor? Imagine masked Border Patrol agents in military tactical gear marching through your state's largest city. As a top Border Patrol official bragged, the agents were arresting people based on, quote, how they look. Imagine if federal agents rappelled from Black Hawk helicopters to swarm an apartment building in your state, breaking down doors, yanking people out of bed, zip tying and detaining U.S. citizens, your constituents, including children for ours, including American citizens. Imagine if federal agents pointed an assault rifle at one of your constituents, simply taking a picture.
That right there is the blueprint of Trumpism. Loyalty above law, chaos above accountability. His officials don't serve the Constitution, they serve the ego of one man who treats government like a personal empire. And that delusion of absolute power didn't stop at hearings. It spilled onto the streets. Now, listen to this report that shows just how far Trump was willing to go, even over the objections of elected state leaders. That is what authoritarianism looks like in America. Not tanks rolling down Pennsylvania Avenue, but quiet normalization, one illegal act at a time. And now, the branch that's supposed to stop him, the Supreme Court, is signaling that it might not even be able to. Donald Trump's newest plan doesn't just defy precedent, it threatens the very structure of American law. Here's what's happening. In an interview with the New York Times, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, one of Trump's own hand-picked justices, admitted that the court may be powerless if Trump simply ignores its rulings. Think about that. The Supreme Court, the highest authority in the land, saying out loud that it has no power of the purse and no power of the sword. Translation, if Trump refuses to obey, there's nothing they can do. That confession should terrify every American, because it means our system runs on trust, and Trump has already proven he'll burn that trust to the ground for his own gain. This is the constitutional nightmare Republicans have built. The so-called unitary executive theory they love so much gives presidents unchecked power, the kind of power dictators dream of. And if the Supreme Court can't stop Trump, what's left to protect ordinary Americans from tyranny? The truth is, the fight for democracy isn't theoretical anymore. It's happening in real time. And the side that still believes in the rule of law, the side led by Democrats defending voting rights, judicial independence, and constitutional limits, needs every one of us to stay informed and stay active. If Trump wins this fight, the Constitution loses. But if Americans fight back, democracy wins.